New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
And hello again, dear ones. Rev BRZ over here.
Rev Z right here.
Yoda. No, Reverend Ray here.
We'll put Yoda up here in the corner for a minute. Howdy, Yoda. Good to see you. This is New Thought Today, folks, on the New Thought Media Network. If you're watching live, welcome, welcome, welcome. If you're watching it another time, hey, please feel free to chat along and chime along as well. Your input is just as valuable. We'll see it at that later time and be sure to respond. Unless, of course, you're watching this on some lost cloud account or you just found a hard drive in 30, 40 years from now, in which case, yeah, we won't answer. But good to be with you, folks. If you have never been with us before and wondering what you're stepping into, this is the opportunity Rev Z and I take every week to chat with some amazing people in the New Thought movement. And I'm just going to say it outright. If you've got a seatbelt, go ahead and buckle up. We were having a pretty good conversation in our warm-up backstage. And you can catch back episodes with Rev Ray with us. Not your first time go around with us. So they're always a fiery and good time, and yeah, we always groove on it. So welcome aboard, sir. How have you been?
Doing pretty good. All things considered going on in this galaxy right about now. And yourself?
I'm gonna be straight up, man. I want to wait until I know you're on vacation and slip into your closet and borrow some of those outfits you got. There's another one you got on today, and you come home from vacation, and I'll have a new wardrobe. Yeah, I'll leave your posters. I promise. I'll leave your posters, but your wardrobe. If you ever need an idea for a big fundraiser, I think you might have one there.
All right, there you go. I got some dental bills that'll help with.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you right now, and as we look forward to what this show talks about, where we're going in the future, you're going to need everything working to get the word out of what needs to be done to make this thing work. So yeah.
Yes.
Right. Oh, I love it. Well, folks, we asked Reverend Raymont on today a little while back, and it all kinds of floats into something that's actually going to happen tomorrow. And that's where I'd like to kick off our conversation today and give you a little bit. If you haven't heard yet, we're doing a one-time special event tomorrow evening, and it's all based on something. Raymont's got a great way of putting some provocative questions out. And a couple weeks back, I turned on my Facebook, and sure enough, there's this question: is New Thought in hospice? Is New Thought relevant and effective regarding real evolution and manifesting of the prophetic vision? And I thought, wow, that is a provocative question. And so did a number of our friends, including Reverend Dr. David Alexander, Reverend Cindy Grimes, Reverend Casey Taylor, all started chiming in. And then I had the great idea, let's do a panel discussion. A few days later, Bishop Darrell Watkins out of Florida starts chiming in and reamped the idea and the conversation. And before you know it, we're going to have a hootenanny of a get together tomorrow evening. And so I wanted to kick this off by asking you, Reverend Raymont, what brought that idea to mind? How's that concept and that question sparking in you, and the courage to put it out online for the whole world to see, I think.
So the short answer is Tuesday night, the evening before I posted it, a friend who, I'm not sure what Unity she attends, but someone who attends Unity reached out to me, and we have conversations every now and then about all kinds of stuff. And through the conversation, some of those questions started to come up. And while we were chatting, someone called her and she said, "Oh, you know what? Hey, Reverend Ray, would it be all right if they could join in? Like, could we do a Zoom real quick?" So it ended up being 5 of us having a conversation, 2 people who are in Unity, 1 who used to go to Agape, and then 1 who sort of like flits around all kinds of places. And in the conversation, a lot of stuff came up just saying, why aren't we as New Thought even talking about A, B, C, D, E, F, G? Why do we avoid? So, and I don't remember who brought it up, but someone said, yeah, it seems like New Thought is in hospice. And I asked them, like, say more about what you mean. And through the conversation, what came up was New Thought isn't in hospice. Because as a philosophy, as a teaching, it's fine. It's how we are living it, teaching it, and practicing it that's not really meeting people and getting people and doing the stuff it could be doing. So this is like, oh, is that what's in hospice? How we're teaching it, preaching it, you know, delivering it and using, is that, yeah, we talked about a whole bunch of stuff and it was an uncomfortable conversation. And I find that it is very useful to be an open book and share on social media. This is what's going on with me. You know, 2 years ago, the whole prostate cancer thing, I'm like, I'm sharing because I want people to understand I go through the same things you go through. Just because I'm a minister don't mean I'm, you know, walking on water and turning, you know, tuna fish and stuff into feeding 10,000 people. It's not the way it works. So I'm like, I want to be authentic and open. And I said, you know, this is a good conversation. I'm going to post it. And once I did, the floodgates opened.
Yes, exactly. I think I probably could have lined up 15 or 20 people to be on that panel discussion.
Easily, yeah.
We let Darrell slip in at the end there just because, you know.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I love that introduction, if you will, because it, in my mind, it encapsulates what we talked about in the green room that we can't talk about because it just takes too long to unpack it. But I think you put it in a nice framework of this idea of this system, this philosophy, this ideology, religion, if you will, is the embodied living experience for it to work. And because life is a holistic entity, there is no way to continue to separate, right? You can start, you know, you can live with one kidney. There's a lot of things you can do when you have them in pairs of a system as a backup. But when we can't live this teaching so that we can ride the ups and downs, the yin and yang, the ebb and flow, we use all these flowery terms, but we don't live them. And I think this thing about being in hospice is about living or making the decision to do something else.
Right.
And I'm complete with that.
And thank you for that. And one of the things that came up in the conversation was basically this idea of there are a lot of people who appear to be using New Thought as a spiritual opioid. They're using it just so they feel good, not so they do good. And I was like, wait. Let's really unpack that. And a lot of people, for real, won't address any of the systemic ills or diseases, even though, well, within CSL, you know, what is our fifth we believe statement? We believe the ultimate goal of life to be a complete emancipation from all discord of every nature. Well, if we're being emancipated from discord, shouldn't we be talking about the discord so that we know what it means to be emancipated from it? But we ain't even going to talk about it. So we're going to just tiptoe around the campfire, sing Kumbaya, and pretend that everything's okay. It's just not the way it works.
Well, you know, it's a phrase that that Christians use a lot, in that if you ain't gonna be about Jesus, I mean, they say it in 1,000 different ways, but the essence of it is, if you ain't gonna be about Jesus, a master teacher, now some of them may not even know what they're saying, then I don't know what to tell you.
Mm-hmm.
Because here's a person who lived a complete life. If you,
mm-hmm.
however you want to take the extraordinary things of life,
mm-hmm.
I'll leave that to each individual to do their research and come up with a conclusion. However,
mm-hmm.
when you look at the life, the lived experience of Jesus, he covered every base. And that's
real
what
quick,
we should be doing.
I know Robert's getting ready to say something, but real quick, is it not interesting that for a lot of people, Jesus is a mascot and Dr. Holmes is a mascot versus? I
love
it.
That's I think that's one of the biggest questions we start to face, and you said it in a way, Raymont, that I really resonate with, in that we have to. It's not just the feel good, make me look good piece of this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I got to get, you got to get healthy first. You got to get your stuff together
mm-hmm.
first. If your
mm-hmm.
stuff ain't in order, you're not doing anybody any good. But the
mm-hmm.
natural evolution of this philosophy has to lead to that greater sense of, how do we serve the liberation of all? How do we, and there's been so much debate in 12 years around the statement of creating a world that works for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And now we tap on in all life because we recognize it was not fully complete. And
mm-hmm.
now we're waking up to the fact that Sharif Abdullah is where we got it all from. And
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think he said it better to begin with in the first place, but that's
mm-hmm.
okay. And we're coming around to that place, I think, where more and more people recognize the both and of doing our work in consciousness, but it cannot end there.
Mm-hmm.
And when we put on Ernest Holmes as earrings and dressing for what isn't working,
mm-hmm.
I saw this happen recently on Facebook, not just in New Thought either,
mm-hmm.
but say anything critical of anybody, and suddenly you're not a good Christian, and suddenly
mm-hmm.
you're, I thought you were a minister. You can't talk bad about somebody. You can't critique somebody. You can't
mm-hmm.
call out a racist when you see one, because
mm-hmm.
you're a minister and you're supposed to see the oneness and the allness of everything. And it becomes tough water for a lot of people to navigate. We're seeing the difference between the mature and the immature expressions of this philosophy, I believe.
Without a doubt. I'm like, look, either we need to stop referring to ourselves as metaphysicians, because just that word by itself, physician, every physician, I don't care if it's cardiac, neuro, it doesn't matter what branch they are. They all get together at conventions and symposiums to talk about all the ways that the brain, the heart, the kidneys, the butt, all the ways that it can go wrong and stuff. Why? Not to dwell on the fact that there's plaque here and there's this there, but to dwell on the idea of, once we can identify this, then we can address the solution for it. We do the exact opposite. We walk into the OR, see the person laying on the bed, and we're like, Kumbaya, it's all God, it's all good. They're going to get up any minute now. Wait a minute, not yet. Well, it doesn't work that way. And we try to make this metaphysic thing work with, just hold it in your consciousness and the world will be fine. The next time you get hungry, do that and see if food materializes in front of you. Yeah. The next time you need to get from point A to point B, don't get in your car, don't get on the bus, materialize and transport yourself like Captain Kirk, energize and move, because your consciousness alone is enough. It does not work that way.
You know,
it's consciousness in action.
Yes, you just woke up a whole dissertation in me.
Come on,
well, you are the only one without a doctor in the room, so yeah, let's go. We need this. Somebody hit the transcription button before he goes.
Because the challenge that I look at when we look at metaphysics, right? What you say we teach, metaphysics comes out of the universal system of mystery, the mystery systems. No matter, forget where they started or who was first. The essence of it is the same. We can make a history for any of that. But when you look at metaphysics, you're talking about studying the mysteries of the universe. When you study the mysteries of the universe, you can't leave nothing out, because ultimately it leads to mathematics. Mathematics has all kinds of laws, rules to deal with the unimaginable. And then you say, oh, it's possible? Now, how do I prove that? You go ask them when they started doing when they were looking for the God particle, the Higgs-on bose, and they went over there and took 2 particles and sent them in Europe, created them. That is what this teaching is supposed to be about. It is a conscious lived experience, and it's about frequency. It's about light. It's about rhythm. It's about cycles. And when we miss the signs and symbols of the universe, however you get them, you're bound to be in trouble.
Without a doubt.
Ask the dinosaurs.
Isn't it interesting? For example, like right now, I'm teaching a foundations class, and it's interesting that the chapter for week 5, we talk about the law of attraction. There are other hermetic laws besides law of attraction. Why are we not talking about them as well? Why do we focus on the law of attraction? Oh, because we are a philosophy and a teaching about get, more, green lights, parking spaces, princes and princesses, I want, versus how do I use this to be a beneficial presence in the world? How do I use this to be the new thought good Samaritan and help change and transform? How do I do that versus, oh, you know what? I'm good. I got my enlightenment. I got my food. I got my 40 acres and a mule. I got my stuff. You're hungry? What's wrong? What's in your consciousness? Oh, you don't have? What's in your consciousness? Versus, no, there is only one mind, and that mind is God, and that mind is all of us. So if it's in anyone's consciousness, it's in ours as well.
Right.
How are we addressing this so that everybody is lifted and elevated? None of us are free until all of us are free.
Yeah. And here's a shortcoming, if you will, of how this is being taught. And you brought up the excellent point about other hermetic ancient Egyptian, I'm gonna go there, laws, because the law of attraction in itself is not a law per se. It is the combination of 3 laws: correspondence, rhythm, and polarity. And when you set those 3 things in motion, mathematically, the result is attraction. And so I hear people come around talking about, oh, I'm a manifester. I manifest. I'm like, do you really understand what that means? It's not about a parking car spot. It's not about somebody in the front of you paying for your coffee before you get there. Those are wonderful, grateful expressions of fluid connection of the universe. But when we're talking about creation, we're talking about something beyond what you have right now. A creation was going from fire to a computer. That is creation. Now you can argue with it, whatever, but somebody went into consciousness and conceived of what I can do with fire, i.e. light. And I took it from something to warm and cook my food to something to send a telescope and look at galaxies light years away. And when you have that kind of power and understanding of these laws, there's no reason anybody should suffer. Anybody should be hungry. Anybody should be downtrodden, if you will, because we have the ability to do it. We don't have the consciousness to do it. And that's what
Right. Exactly. I'm
sorry for the dissertation.
Ooh, we need more of that.
Thought that's why I paid you. What are you talking about?
We need more of that.
It's good to see you, Tracy Rhymes. I know you're here to see the brother Raymont specifically. It's so thanks for tuning in with us today. And yeah, it's what this show is about. Truly, is breaking it down, breaking down the differences. Because again, as I listen to you, Sharon Z, I hear this my same kind of drum point. We're looking at the difference between an immature understanding and application of these principles and the laws and a more mature, deeper, and right. It's you can understand this stuff pretty quickly and pretty easily, but practicing it 24/7, making it a lifestyle, making it the truth of who you are, and being okay with yourself when you slip, but making it who you are is a much longer road and a much different process.
Mm-hmm. And let me just interject right there. And I'm gonna do one of these, like in rugby, you pass the ball to your teammate to keep running. So in terms of that level stuff, I'm gonna pass this to Raymont. See, because he's a martial artist and he understands. I can teach you how to punch and kick right now, but trust me, you ain't no black belt, you ain't no master. I have to continue to practice and perfect and imagine and create situations with the katas and forms to how to apply these skills. And I'm going to just leave that to Raymont because I know he got it.
Oh, without a doubt. So in terms of this whole martial arts thing, like there are some martial artists who they're all about the show, the glitz, the glamour. They are performative martial artists. And then there are those martial artists who truly embody it as a way of life. And you may not even realize that they're martial artists because it is so ingrained in their system that the way they pick bread off of the shelf in the grocery store is moved with ease and grace because they have that balance of chi and ki and all of that stuff. Bruce Lee said, oh, and he used the word fear, but it was respect. I don't respect the person who has mastered 100 kicks. I respect and fear the one who has taken one kick and done it 10,000 times. When if we're serious about this, new thought, we'll just say that, metaphysics, new thought. If we're serious about it and we understand what it is, then one, we're not going to just do prayer or seek prayer when we're in crisis. It's one of the things that Dr. Tracy Brown and I talked about the other day. We're not going to go to prayer in crisis. We're going to go to prayer to such a degree that we are always in prayer. That the way we live our life is our amen. But that happens when I'm not seeking new thought as a magic opioid of consciousness. Oh, I just lost my job. Reverend Robert, can you pray with me? Okay, cool. Yes. But what about once you get the job, let's go back into prayer that the job unfolds and you become the CEO and when things are good, let's pray. Right. We don't do this as a way of life. Right. We do it as a way of, let me show you how enlightened I am. And let me show you how great I can sing this song on Sunday. And let me show you how great I tithe to my community. But when it comes down to it, and I understand that one, I am not my brother's keeper. I am not my sister's keeper. I am not my transgender, non-gender conforming, non-binary siblings' keeper. I am them and they are me. When I understand that, it changes everything about how I move throughout this thing called life. Yeah. Which means I then have the capacity to understand when I see an injustice, I don't need to judge the person, but I hold them accountable for what they are doing, saying, and the behavior. I don't have to see them as you are what you do. No, you are a divine incarnation of God. And yet what you are doing is heinous. And we're going to hold you accountable for that. Martial arts gives you the ability to listen. Would you say?
I hear you. No, you keep bringing these pictures to my mind. And I saw this picture of the poem, which I'm sure a lot of people know, Footprints. Mm-hmm. And the guy's walking, he's having this conversation in consciousness with God, whoever you want to talk about. Mm-hmm. And he's having this dialogue about, I thought you was gonna be here with me, Lord. I done went through this and that and up and I thought you was gonna be with me. And God, our consciousness say, well, turn around and look. And he looks and says, well, how come I only see one set of footprints? Say, because I was carrying you. That says to me that when you are fully engaged in life through the ups and the downs, the goods and the bads, the Lord is carrying you. That is the footprint. It is living a whole life. And when you live a whole life, God got it, because God created it all and he understands how this flow of energy works. But when we try to take soul control and move God out, I don't like the term ego edging God out, but I'll use it in this case because it serves the purpose. When I get too big, I would make it to say, if I get too big, too grand, too bold, too caught on myself, that I push God out, that's the problem. Because we at any moment can come to a situation that, as the old slaves used to say, they would fall on their knees and say, oh Lord, I done took this as far as I can go, and guess what? I done messed it up. Can you help save me? Then you see a light where Harriet takes hundreds of people to I'm doing the back history moment. Why we do here. That is the consciousness that needs to be embodied, regardless of what you see or what others may see as a wrong way to go, a thing not to do. You got to have that conviction.
Without a doubt. The funny thing is, because God is all there is, edging God out, we couldn't edge God out if we tried. If we wanted to, God simply is. So what we're actually edging out is our recognition of the oneness right where we are. So I'm like, there's non-life affirming ego where we edge it out, where we ignore it. But then there's life affirming ego, expressing God only. How do we move to that space where we recognize no matter what I'm doing, if I'm constipated, then God as me is constipated. If I wake up late in the morning, then God as me is waking up late in the morning. Like Joel Goldsmith says, God expresses God, and that expression appears as you. Period. Full stop. So how do I, Robert referenced earlier the idea of first I got to get me. First I got to get me right. I got to get me healthy. What is my invitation to get all four pillars? My thoughts, all of that stuff, my words and how I communicate. Because if I know what God is, it should change how I talk. It should change how I, images that I share on social media. It should change. Something should be different. My emotions and my feelings and my actions. All four of those pillars have to be strong and sturdy to support the thing at the top, which is my lived experience, my life expression. If one of the pillars is off, I'm good with, I talk a great game. There's only one power and only one presence, God the good, omnipotent, blah, 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 blah. And then you watch my actions and it's like, oh, Ray doesn't move like he believes what he says. One pillar's off, the experience tilts. The experience keep on tilting, and then we find, oh, now my life is collapsing around me because I'm a hypocrite. I'm doing metaphysical blasphemy in terms of I'm not really in alignment with what I'm claiming.
Ooh. Ooh. Oh, everybody duck.
Just saying.
I've heard, that's the first I've heard that one. I like it. Metaphysical blasphemy. Yeah, I'm with you, brother. I hear you. And I agree with you. And, folks, that's what we try to do here on New Thought Media Network, is bring you the conversations that are shaping this philosophy and how we take it forward and how we take it out into the streets, and how we make it real in our lives and the lives of those around us. And one of the ways we do that is by giving our sponsors a chance to say hello and tell you a little bit more about what we're doing on this network, and giving Brother Raymont a chance to catch his breath, maybe have a sip of water. So, but don't go away. Stay with us. We're going to be back in just a minute. Hit the like, share, and subscribe buttons while we're gone. Let some of your friends and family know what we're doing. We'd love to have you involved in the conversation in the next session, next portion. We'll be right back after this.
New Thought Media Network proudly presents the 2025 Season for Nonviolence 64-day meditation series, January 30th through April 4th. Join us as we carry the vision of a world that works for all.
Join our celebration of Black History Month. Only on New Thought Media Network. New videos every day at 6 a.m. Eastern Time, or watch anytime on our YouTube channel. 28 unique Black History moments. Every day in February. Only on New Thought Media Network.
And we're back with more of the New Thought today on the New Thought Media Network. Thanks for being with us, folks. And before we jump into my next question, I just want to remind everybody about tomorrow night. Reverend Raymont's going to be with us again, and along with a number of other luminaries and folks throughout the New Thought movement. Is New Thought in Hospice. And here's my question. So there's that sub question: is New Thought real and relevant and effective in today? And here's the deeper question that has come to me. We are seeing an attempt to whitewash, to eliminate, to turn a blind eye, to eliminate the celebration of Black History Month and other groups overall, and to erase the existence of said groups, regardless of whether it's our LGBTQ or trans friends, or whatever it is. As New Thought, as metaphysicians, as religious scientists, as just good people in the world, as spiritual folk that believe in a better way, how do we use these principles to affect change in this environment?
That's for me.
Yeah.
So, like,
you're the guest. They hear us talk about it all the time.
So, like, the very first thing that comes to my mind immediately is New Thought teaches, like, the principles are God is all there is, and God is showing up in through and as all of, like, how many different species or genuses of apples are there? There ain't just one apple. There's a whole bunch of different, like, wait a minute, how many different flowers, how many different kinds of roses? We can identify God showing up as all of this great, beautiful grandeur there. But when it comes to people, we got this thing like, well, should we really be, according to the teaching, our invitation is to teach it and preach it and share it and do whatever it is we can do to tell people in our centers, our congregations, and our communities, this is what God is. Inclusion is a divine mandate that says if we understand what God is, and all of this is included in, there is only one life, and that life is God, then we have to include. Now then pause. Why are they trying to exclude? What is the consciousness of that? And when we can identify the consciousness of that, same as anything. What causes the flu? We identify it. This is the cure. What cancer? This is the treatment. The surgery. This is the, whatever it is, we could do the exact same thing. And that's our invitation. Identify what does it mean to deny DEI, diversity, which God is, equity, which is a divine principle, and inclusion. Well, God is. You can't exclude in God. So our invitation is to say, how do we promote DEI 4.0 to the degree where someone walks into any of our communities, centers, churches, whatever we got, there is no doubt and no question where we stand in terms of Black Lives Matter, Trans Lives Matter, all of the alphabet, LG, all of it. Right. We support, we promote, and we encourage the education of, the healing regarding someone's biases and all of that. We address all of that. rather than standing in the background like, well, we don't want to make people mad because then they'll, we've got some of those folks in our community. And if we say something about that, they'll take their dollars and they'll leave. So we got to play it safe. Playing it safe is not a divine principle when you understand that God is all there is. Dr. Holmes said, do not be confused, Ray's paraphrase. Do not be confused and think that there are two. There is only one, and that one is God. And so whatever is true of that life, God, is true of your life, because there is only one life. When we understand that, we can't sit back and play, I don't want to, we have to get involved in the conflict. If this was right now, civil rights movement, the time of the 60s was right now, how many of us would be out there with Dr. King? If this was the Vietnam, how many of us would be out there protesting the Vietnamese War? How many of us would be vocal to say war of any kind is against the divine principle of love and compassion? And as a minister of this, I have to speak out against that. Both sides. There's not one good side and one. This ain't the Super Bowl where I got my favorite team and both sides of war are invited to understand there is a better way of operating. Racism, homomisia, transmisia, all of that stuff is an invitation for us to get into the operating room of consciousness and address the dis-ease and illness that creates that, rather than shying away and playing small.
No. It's my dissertation.
Go get it. I was gonna say you gotta get it.
He opened
you
up.
You gotta get it because he sure opened one up. Good Lord.
You opened one up. I'm on the phone to the archives right now. Seriously,
go get it. Go get it.
Because
no, here's the deal. I'll give you the dissertation. I'll take the theses. Go with the dissertation right now.
All right. You bring, so how has New Thought responded in the past? We don't teach that in our ministerial education. We don't teach that anywhere that I know of. How exactly, who were the voices of the time of Vietnam? And how did the New Thought movement respond to the civil rights issues of the time? And we have some small little anecdotal stuff, right? Ernest didn't like that whichever church it was listed as a black church and called the magazine editor and said, don't ever let me see that again. And so we know there was a consciousness of inclusion, at least within Ernest, but we do know that there was also a consciousness of division or exclusion, specifically regarding color, at some point in the history of at least the religious science side of it.
Right.
I don't want to lay that on CSL. They carry enough baggage for their history. They don't need that too.
Right.
They're trying pretty hard to heal some of that stuff.
Right.
But we don't have, I'm sure it's there. I just have never been exposed to it.
I'm going to stop you right there because I've raised this question when I was on the minister's listserv many times. And eventually I raised it at one point where Dr. Jesse Jennings was like, ooh, that's a good question. And so he and I conversed about it. And he said he went back to as early as he could and went through all of the magazines. This man did some due diligence. And he said, if I recall, he found one reference to a unity minister who made a comment or said something regarding civil rights. There was nothing else. That's if in fact that is accurate, that is extremely disheartening to realize that we were
silent. So let's go back, right? What about World War II? What were we? Who were the voices in New Thought, Unity, Science of Mind, Divine Science? All these things are in play at that time. What were the leading or even the trailing voices? What were the secondary, tertiary voices of the time saying in regards to those events as well? I mean, we have some. I think we have a fair enough intuitive perspective that, again, nobody's seen this. So we haven't done this yet. We haven't truly been a voice for civil rights. We haven't truly been a voice for equity and complete inclusion. we've been a pretty good voice for, we're all one within the diversity, but have we really let that get to our feet and burn some rubber on the road, as it were, in that regard?
Right, because it's very different for a couple of, centers or a couple of ministers or a couple of practitioners to be very vocal and very involved. Yes, I have no doubt that has been and currently is. But as a collective, that voice is silent for the most part.
Well, it needs to be in the minutes of the organizations. It needs to be it needs to be in those minutes that are preserved in archives for future generations, so they can see, wait a minute, here's where it did change. Here's where people did start having conversations, not just tangentially, but this is where they started actually saying our church is going to move in this direction, or it's going to embrace this principle or value, or we're going to work towards this initiative. And again, I trust that somebody's going to watch this on a lost cloud drive someday and realize that at least the three of us were involved in the conversation, and those watching too. So
check this out. We're real good with being reactive, right? Like we'll do Trans Day of Remembrance, and we'll have various centers that will do a vigil. Yes, great. But where is the vigil, the proactive vigil that says we are also engaging in the principles and the practices so that no other transgender person ever has to die, so we never have to light another candle because someone died? Where is that work as well?
Yeah,
it's got to be both and. Yes, honor those who have.
Yeah.
What's up, Z?
You wake up. You started that question with Black history and diversity and inclusion. And so if I just do a quick thesis, like the reason you have Black history, Asian history, trans history, any history, is to understand the leadership, number one, that a group, collection, I mean, we done messed up all the names. We can't name shit no more. But when you look at that, one of the examples that always inspired me for Black history, back to the point, is what my grandmother and grandfather, that old time religion, right? Them old Black churches, and being from the South, I know about some old Black churches in the woods where church may go, and I say church may go on for 5 hours straight.
Yep.
and as the song says, I ain't no way tired. I ain't no way tired, as the poem says. And so all that to say, when you begin to work for God's cause of human rights, of dealing with people, it's a whole soul thing. You got to put everything in it. It's like, one of our fellow ministers, Les Brown, says, if you want to understand the difference between commitment and being involved, says next time you sit down to a bacon and egg breakfast, the chicken was involved, but the pig was committed. He had to give it all up. And that's what when we talking about being servants of the Lord, that's what we talking about. And ain't nobody too much, self-included. I got some spots to work on. I don't want to give up my comfortable warm house here in Denver when it's 3 degrees outside.
Yeah.
But we got to be honest about that, and then allow that to motivate us to do something about that feeling.
Yes.
Create a different vibration so I can do what I can, whatever it is. But you know, it's a lived experience. This stuff is lived.
Yes.
And you can't tell nobody how to live it. You got to do it.
Right. And it's funny that, like, sometimes people have reached out to me and they'll say something like, well, Ray, or Reverend Ray, we teach oneness, so we shouldn't be segregating and do women's history and Black history. It's just history because we teach oneness. And I'm like, pause, pump your brakes, and take a breath. Because if we go into a hospital, do we not have a pediatric ward? We don't treat all patients the exact same because we know that certain patients have certain needs. And we address the needs of the people based upon their needs. Why do we not do the same thing with metaphysics and New Thought? which means we understand that the voices of Black people, people of color, has not been predominantly taught or even focused in any way, shape, or form that identifies the value and the worth of these human beings. And so we use this month, when we actually know that Black history is a 24/7, 365-day thing, we highlight this month to say, look at these voices, listen to these people, see their faces, learn their stories. Now do the same thing for women's history. Hear their voices, listen to their stories, see their faces, and be changed by it. That's what this teaching should be offering.
It goes back to that point you made earlier, where you said there's cardiologists and there's, respiratoriologists. I'm making them up as I go, but there's a doctor for every organ in your body.
Exactly.
Right? There was, and as you said, they study that thing. So when that thing gets out of sync with everything else and starts projecting the demise of it all.
Yep.
I mean, the death of it all. Let me be real clear about what we're talking about. Then you want that doctor who's been studying the heart and only the heart to come in and fix it. I don't want nobody who knows how to mend my broken wrist to start fooling around with my heart.
Right.
But I still need my arm. I still need the bones to carry the heart. So it's a holistic approach. And until we make this a holistic lived experience, and that's what we do when we indicate the different parts of history, we let people know, yes, we're all one, but this heart needs to work. These bones need to work. This respiratory system needs to work. Or guess what? Alzita Vein, you out of here. Bye. Good day.
Exactly.
Ooh.
Exactly.
I don't see how anyone could claim to be a student or a practitioner or of oneness and not come to study, and study maybe is the wrong word, but let's go to more of that interspiritual concept of I've got to live the best I can or as close as I can to your lived experience. I need to have an experience to the best of my ability of what you have lived through and what you have experienced for me to understand the oneness more fully and more in a more complete way. I can only experience the oneness with that which I have come to know, which I can touch, which I have, right? I have an experience of flying in an airplane, but I do not have the experience of flying the airplane. And if I want to really know oneness, I need to get to know a pilot. I need to get to know somebody who can teach me how to do heart surgery or whatever it may be. And I
go on PBS and read watch a documentary about aeronautics or something.
Right.
Something. Yeah.
And now we're back to our exclusionary piece, where if I say, I don't really want to learn about that, and I don't really want to know that that's a part of the oneness, and I don't really want to accept that this person is trans and wants to play sports, and the reality that most trans athletes are actually statistically at a disadvantage in the sport that they play, I can't fully know oneness. So I'm not truly a student of oneness at that point, because if it's come to me, it's mine to do, it's mine to learn, it's mine to experience. If it doesn't come to me, then it's not mine. I don't have to go searching out to try to have I don't need to know what it's like to be a heroin addict.
Right.
I need to know what comes to me. So anyway, end of rant. There we go. Punt.
And dissertation complete.
Yeah, that was a good one though, because I look at, we were talking about is New Thought in hospice. I want to explore the idea of New Thought being an ER trauma room. When someone comes to the hospital and they're in the trauma ward, there's somebody there from the major systems to support that life. They give them a record. We need a heart guy. We need a muscle guy. We need a bone guy, whatever. And everybody triages in that trauma room, and they say, okay, what is the worst trauma right now? If we don't fix that trauma, nothing else getting fixed. they make a triage and they make what's happening happen. And that's what we have to do. I don't look, if I'm working on the heart, I don't need to know about everything about the bone structure that's holding the heart.
Right.
I need to know enough to call you to come fix it.
Right.
When I've done my job, or vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
That's oneness. That's community. That's working together. That's understanding the holisticness of life. If you heard me say it once or twice, this is a scientific light field vibrational universe. And if you can't get with it, it's time to start, doing some more reading, because the light manifests and getting some experience, because that's what it is.
Right. Exactly. It's funny that go ahead.
Because here's what is. We're going to run out of time if we don't hurry through this. So we're going to go to a quick break and say thank you to our organizational sponsors and individual donors. Come back and we're going to wrap this up. Final thoughts with Reverend Raymont. Stay tuned, folks. We'll be right back. Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center Ottawa, Om Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for being part of the New Thought Media Network. Please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring. Yes. Thank you to all of our organizational sponsors and individual donors. It's folks like you that help us to take this message out into the world and share the New Thought ideals, practices, and principles globally. Thanks for being a part of the organization. All right. So, Dr. Raymont, do you remember where you were?
Oh, yeah. Yes. So my final thoughts are, and this is based on what Rev Z said, and this idea of oneness. So where I am right now, I work to practice what I call Science of Mind and Spirit 4.0. And so there's this idea of, for us to be relevant, recognize that there are going to be some people who come to our churches and centers who need help. They're in triage. How do we meet their needs? Some people want to learn. They're the forever students. How do we meet their needs? Some people are going to come because they just want the celebration and the music. How do we meet their needs? The potluck. How do we meet their needs? How do we recognize the various needs of all the people in our community without needing to hoard people, but providing for them? Which also means if I'm serving a community and I look out and I say, you know what, we don't have any transgender people here that I know of. How much about transgender people do I know? It's on me to do my due diligence to say, because if a transgender person walks in and says, Reverend Ray, I would like prayer regarding, my medical care, my gender affirming medical coverage care is being canceled because of X, Y, and Z. I don't know what that means because I haven't done my due diligence. But if I have, then I know where they're coming from. I know what they're afraid of. I know their needs, which means I am better able to serve in the role of minister. In order for us to really create a world that works for all, we have to get to know people. We have to know ourselves. We have to connect. We have to understand what oneness really is in practice and then live it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that was a final thought. I think that might have been an opening statement, but I'm okay with it. I like it. Let's go with that. That's going to look real good when we cut that down on a reel somewhere. Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Z. Yeah, Rev Z doesn't want to have to follow that one.
Well, Light shines everywhere at one time. Everywhere. You don't have to move. And so when I look at that, I'm from an old school with some old school teachers and an old school understanding that says life is, period. You can get on board or not. And when we begin to segment life so much, and we begin to not honor the oneness of it all by looking at who and what we are, just think about, we came from an idea in our parents' head, knowingly or unknowingly, and you are sitting there now. Life is that. That is what life is. You have a thought. All is mental. That is the first principle. And then you move through life activating that consciousness. All is right. All the work out. But you got to really commit. You can't be involved. You got to commit.
Yep. As we've been sharing today in this experience, I've been reminded of, I think it was when Matrix 3 was released. And some people, and there's always the trailers, right? There's always the leak, and there's always the rumor of what the story's going to be. And there are some people that pay attention to that stuff and hang on every word. And there's some people that are like, nope, I want to go see the movie.
Right.
But regardless of what side of the fence you're on with that, you walk into the movie, and it really is rarely what you anticipated. And it's often not what you wanted. To me, I think that's part of a great multi, a franchise movie, that it's not what you think it's going to be, and it's not maybe what you wanted, but it advances the story. And we are experiencing that right now as the reality of our world.
Yeah.
We're going through a story that we were excited to experience, but because we've been saying it forever, we're the ones we've been waiting for, right? We've been saying forever that systems are going to have to change, and there are systems that are going to have to go away in order for new systems to come on board. But those of us that watch the sneak preview aren't as surprised that the story isn't what we thought it was going to be as those that didn't pay attention to the trailers and shocked out of their minds right now. And I think as metaphysicians, this analogy of triage for who we are as a people right now is more important than ever. And we're gonna take care of those that are in crisis and need it the most. And we're gonna do the long-term work of staying in the story, continuing the story. There will always be another chapter. Even if the title of the franchise gets changed.
Amen.
And that's not a spoiler about the upcoming Matrix 15 movie. As far as I know, they've got like through Matrix 15 before they change the franchise name.
No comment.
Okay, yes. I figured you had the inside tea on all that, dude. So
maybe I do. Maybe I do.
Rev Dr Raymont, thank you so much for being with us.
Always great to be with you both.
I would ask you if you'll come back, but I know you'll say yes.
And it is.
And you're kind of contractually obligated to be here tomorrow. So we want everybody to remember, tune back in tomorrow night with us as we take an even deeper dive into Is New Thought in Hospice. Reverend Dr. Raymont Anderson, Bishop Durrell Watkins, Reverend Cindy Grimes, Reverend Dr. David Alexander, and Reverend Casey Taylor. And I don't know how I'm going to keep you all on track, but I might get in a word in edgewise there. We'll see.
Siri, send Reverend Robert a memo on how to herd cats.
Gotta love it. All right, folks, we're about out of here for now. Thanks for being with us. Please tune in again next time. Until then, we wish you a great big peace and richest blessings. Bye now.